The Detroit Lions fell short of making the playoffs this year. The Lions went 9-7, but it wasn't good enough. Now the Lions, at the end of the season, they parted ways with their head coach Jim Caldwell, and they ended up hiring Matt Patricia, the former Patriots defensive coordinator. And I think this is a pretty solid hire. It may not be an elite hire, but I think it's a pretty solid one. I think the Lions could make the playoffs maybe twice in the next 5 years if they draft smart, including what they have right now, pick number 20. Now, as you can see on the draft board behind me, the 20th pick, I have three priorities that the Lions could address with this 20th overall pick. As you can see on the top, I have running back, and I think that is their number one priority. I think it is because Amir Abdullah Theo Riddick hasn't been cutting it so far in Detroit. And the Lions, they haven't had a running back rush for more than 100 yards in a long time. I'd say it's been years since the Lions had a running back rush for more than 100 yards. And I think this is a pick the Lions got to address. They need what you would call a franchise running back. A running back that will change your franchise around. Kind of like what Saquon Barkley would be, although not Saquon Barkley. I would say go for the second best running back in this draft class, being Sony Michel. I know some people would say that Geis out of LSU is the second best running back, but I think it's Sony Michel. I think even though Sony Michel was, when I first looked, he was graded as a second, third round pick. I think in the semifinal matchups in the college football playoff, particularly the Rose Bowl against Oklahoma, I think he increased his draft stock to a late first round or up to the middle of the first round. And pick number 20, we're kind of in that range of middle to the end of the first round. We're getting towards the end of it. We're more than halfway there, but we're still at the middle part of the first round. And this could be Sony Michel territory right here at pick number 20 for Detroit. But if they don't go running back, they could go offensive line. As we've talked about offensive line a lot in the most recent draft boards. Billy Price at Ohio State could be a solid pick here because they need to improve in the offensive line, get some pressure off Matthew Stafford. Kind of like the same thing for the running back. If you can get a running back that's a franchise running back, it will take the pressure off of Matthew Stafford. Because in Lions games that I've been seeing lately, Matthew Stafford's the one that has to win the games. He doesn't have like a running game that you can rely on like the Eagles do with LeGarrette Blount, Jay Ajayi, with the Patriots with Dion Lewis, James White, Rex Burkhead. He doesn't have that running game that can win him games. He doesn't have a running back like Zeke Elliott or Leonard Fournette or Le'Veon Bell. He doesn't have the type of running back. And that's something the Lions are going to need. So if I were the Lions, I'll get to that at the end. Let me talk about defensive line first. Now, Matt Patricia is a defensive guy. Now, the Patriots didn't have the best defense this season, but he also didn't have the worst defense. It was kind of middle tier. But last year, he had a killer defense. In fact, it was the number one defense in the NFL. So the Patriots, well, they were the number one defense statistically. Maybe not the best defense overall in the league, but statistically. Now, Matt Patricia is a defensive guy. And it wouldn't surprise me if the pick at pick number 20 was a defensive guy. But to win games, of course you have the expression that offense wins games and defense wins you championships. You need offensive talent to win the games. Because if the offense can score, well, in the NFL, the magic number for points could be about 24 to 27, 24 to 28. If your offense can acquire 24, 28 points in the NFL, that's on average winning games. But if your defense only gives up 14 points a game, but your offense can't generate anything. That's the offense not being able to win a game. So you got to draft a running back here. It wouldn't, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me if the pick was a defensive lineman, but the pick needs to be a running back, Sony Michel or Darius Geis. But I'd go with Sony Michel, so I think he's the second best running back in this draft class, and I think he proved that in the two semifinal matchups that he played against Oklahoma and Alabama. In fact, I think Sony Michel, I'd be surprised if he wasn't picked here at pick number 20, because he's the best running back in this draft class behind Saquon Barkley. And Sony Michel would take pressure off Matthew Stafford. I think the Lions would win a lot more games if they had a running back that could run for 100 yards a game, because Matthew Stafford doesn't have a Le'Veon Bell or a Leonard Fournette or Zeke Elliott to depend on. So that should be the pick there. A running back should be the pick. It wouldn't surprise you, though, if it was a defensive player, but it's got to be a running back, in particular, Sony Michel. Second best running back in this draft class behind Saquon Barkley.